Welcome to episode number 62 of the Create Your Vibrant Life podcast. This is your host, Padma Ali. Today we have another special guest, and I have known Sara for a couple of years at this point, and I love her energy. And most of all, one of the reasons I wanted to bring her to you all is because of I want all of you to experience what manifestation feels and looks like. You know, the word manifestation is thrown around a lot these days. And I wanted you to hear from an expert of how manifestation actually can be easy and simple. We as humans are known to complicate things, aren't we? And I wanted you to hear from Sara's own voice of how manifestation can be an easy process. And she is amazing in walking us through steps on how you can manifest easily. You know, if you followed me for a while or if you worked with me, you know that I have two aspects of me. One is the part of me that loves strategies and like steps and that part of me, and then the other one which is very esoteric and very broad in how I think and how I connect with the universe and the planet and all that good stuff. And what Sara was able to do is connect both of these things together, because we all can use certain steps in making manifestation be easy, right? And so without any further delay, I'm inviting you to listen and take notes on this episode with Sara on manifestation.
Hello, visionaries. Welcome to Create Your Vibrant Life podcast, where you can create the life you desire by tapping into your inner wisdom. I'm your host, Padma Ali. I'm widely known in the field of psychology to create long-lasting transformation. And now, I'm here to help you create the life you desire using a combination of neuropsychology and ancient healing practices. This podcast is for you, evolved, overachieving leader who's ready to unlock your highest potential. I'm here to guide you through a process of self-discovery to be the creator of your destiny. And you can do all of that by just taking aligned actions, tapping into the power of your brain, your inner wisdom, and ancient practices. So stay tuned, folks. I am so delighted you are here.
So welcome to Create Your Vibrant Life podcast. Today we have an amazing guest, Sara Drury. Sara has been a guide, a mentor, and a dear friend, and I can't wait to share her magic with you all. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and let's dive into more magic.
I love it. I'm so excited to be here with you. I truly am, just to be in your energy and just to serve your audience. It's such an honor and a pleasure. So thank you. I'm Sara. I'm Sara Drury. And basically, I just help women specifically manifest their best lives. And part of how I do that is through literally manifesting more money through their businesses, more fulfillment overall in life, and just really tapping into the deepest soul desires that they have, and really kind of just bringing them out, bringing them to light, and removing any blocks that keep them from being able to do that. So that's literally what I do with my clients, is I just help them step into who they're really meant to be.
Oh, I love that. I just love it, because that is when the more we learn about ourselves, the more we know who we truly are. So much magic. The word magic keeps coming up, right? That happens.
Yes. It's like my favorite word. and because really, the idea of manifestation to me really is the idea of magic. And, I think just traditionally the way that we think about magic is like, either like pulling a rabbit out of a hat or something like that. But in my mind, the idea of magic is really tapping into the literal magic all around us. When you go outside and you have that moment where the wind just like brushes your face and you're just like really in gratitude, that's a magic moment to me, because anytime we're bringing ourselves fully to a present moment feels like it can be a magical moment. But the idea of manifestation, of saying, being really kind of specific, and we'll get into all of it, but being really specific about saying, there's a thing that I want and I want to bring it into reality. I want to bring this thing that is in my brain out and into reality. And the thing that I have found is that it's actually really, really simple. And the way that I like to say it is, it's so simple that it can feel like magic. When everything kind of like falls into place and it's like, ooh, that felt like magic. That's how I like to think of magic. So it's one of my favorite words. So I'm glad it keeps coming up.
I that's so amazing. Like, I want to just go back to what you said. I think that is so magical as well. You were talking about just being out and noticing like how things are falling into place. And there's something about just even feeling the wind in your face, and that there's like noticing the magic in every moment.
Exactly. Because I sort of think of it as that we're always making our own magic. We're always making the magic. And part of it is just tuning in to what already is present, and finding the good things over and over and over again. I think we're just naturally wired. I see it in my son. I have an 8-year-old son, and I see it in him where he's naturally wired to really actually kind of look for the negative things. We went through this period of time where at nighttime, all of a sudden it would be like he would be naming all of the bad things that happened during the day. And I was like, okay, hold on now. I know it wasn't just bad things that happened to you today. So let's really kind of like take a step back and look at it and say, okay, these were some things that happened. But if I'm constantly redirecting myself toward, okay, there were some negative things that happened, but maybe there were some really amazing things that happened. And the more we focus on the really amazing things, even if they're just teeny tiny, like I said, the wind brushing your face in a particular way that just was like, oh, wow. If we can just keep tuning into those little teeny tiny things, then we start noticing bigger and bigger and bigger magic.
Oh my God, that is so profound. So help me connect that, and the audience connect that with manifestation. There's something about noticing these tiny, tiny things that leads to bigger magic, which I'm assuming is something about manifestation.
Absolutely. So if we can just go back to what is manifestation and just
Perfect.
define it, because I think so many people, I saw on Instagram the other day, you're, scrolling through stories or whatever, and a gal was saying, do you believe in manifestation? And then she went on she was like, I do. And then she started talking about, and I kind of was like, can we just like pause for a second and say, that's an interesting question. Why would you even say, do I believe in manifestation? Because to me, manifestation is what I kind of alluded to earlier. I have a thing in my brain. I can see it. I can feel it. There's just like something that I want. And now I want to make it manifest. I want it to be in my physical reality. So it's in my awareness somewhere. And now I want to say, I want to hold that thing. I want it to be a real tangible thing. And when we can make that transition from saying, ooh, this thing in my brain is now I'm holding it in my hand. That is manifestation. That is the process of manifestation. But we're always manifesting. Manifesting isn't something that you either believe in or don't believe in. I mean, you can say that, but it's happening whether you choose to say you're acknowledging it and believing it, quote unquote, or not. It's the same as saying, I don't believe in gravity. Well, gravity doesn't care if you don't believe in it. And the idea of manifestation doesn't care if you do or don't believe in it. It just is. It is a natural way of interacting with our physical world. We have ideas and we go and do them. One of my favorite examples that I've been using a lot lately is because somebody messaged me once and she was like, is manifestation like, can you explain what it is? And I said, have you ever wanted a cheeseburger? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so this is manifestation. You think in your brain, I really am craving a juicy cheeseburger. And then that's the thought, right? You have the thought and then you're like, okay, how do I make this happen? How do I manifest a cheeseburger? Well, there's a couple different ways you could do it, right? You could just like go through some fast food place, drive on through, grab that cheeseburger, eat it, be done with the whole thing. Or you could go to the grocery, you could collect your items, you could bring it home, you cook it up, and then you eat the cheeseburger. When that cheeseburger is sitting in front of you, you have just manifested a cheeseburger. So any thought that you are thinking about that you then pull into reality, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, that is manifestation. Most of the time, people are doing it unconsciously. They're not doing it on purpose. So an example of that could be constantly worrying about anything, about money is a big one. I feel like that a lot of people worry about, constantly worrying. And this was me for a long time, checking in on the accounts, wondering where the money is going to come from. And lo and behold, that just manifests more of what you don't want. So you're still manifesting. You're just manifesting what you didn't want to happen. So do you feel like that explains it well?
Yeah, it does. And I love what you said about, like you're manifesting whether you believe it or not, and whether you pay attention to the manifestation or not. And since starting this journey, I'm noticing more of the manifestations in my physical world. And it might just have been a thought. And sometimes it's like a simple thought like, oh, I'm looking for stamps. And then I turn around and there are stamps.
Yes.
And to me, like, oh my God, I found stamps. Like I thought we ran out of stamps and there's the stamp, right? And so these are small things, but what I'm hearing you say is these small things, when you pay attention to them, it leads to bigger manifestations. It leads to more awareness around the manifestation.
Exactly. And I think the reason that I like this cheeseburger example is because it's as easy to manifest a cheeseburger as it or stamps, for your example, to just be like, oh, I need some stamps. And the thing is, like, sometimes we think manifestation means I turn around and they're right there. And that is like, I have an example of, this is a funny one, but one day I was thinking about those Roombas, those vacuums.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really think I want to get one of those. And I got online, I was looking at pictures, and I sent a picture to my mom of one. And I said, I think I want to get one of these. And she said, oh, actually, it was like summertime. She was like, actually, I bought you one of those for Christmas and I put it in a closet and I can't find it. But then later that day, she found it and I had that Roomba. So thought of it, literally had it later the day. But the same would have been true. I still would have manifested it had I gone to the store and purchased it. That's still a manifestation because you're just thinking of it and you bring it into your reality. But I think this is where it gets a little bit like tricky, is that people think, oh, well, I want $1 million and that's hard, or that's not, I don't turn around and just see $1 million, or I don't call my mom and say, I want $1 million. And she's like, actually, I stuffed $1 million in a closet for you. Here you go. Right. I mean, maybe some people do. I don't know. Not my mom. But then there's this, so there's a tendency to say, well, like manifestation is hard or doesn't work for me, or all of these things. And this is why I like these smaller examples, because it's like, no, there really is kind of a a process that you can go through for the things that do feel a little bit harder. But with a cheeseburger, for example, you don't go, I want a cheeseburger, but I don't know how the heck I'm going to get a cheeseburger. That's going to be so hard to get a cheeseburger. Where do they even sell cheeseburgers? Who am I to have a cheeseburger? Nobody does that, right? You wouldn't do that about stamps. You wouldn't do it about a Roomba. That's why it's like, it's fun to look at these examples to say, oh, that's all manifestation is. And then we can get into when it is something that you feel is a little bit of a bigger manifestation. What does that look like? And we can kind of go into a little bit of a process. But to your point, this is why it's so important to notice the smaller, quote unquote, manifestations so that we show ourselves how we do it all the time, each and every day.
Wow. Wow. That really blew my mind, right? Like showing yourself every day how you're manifesting, which means the bigger things that I think are bigger, it's not bigger or smaller, but I've labeled it.
Right.
That also is possible. And you mentioned a process. Would you walk us through a process of manifestation?
I would love to walk you through a process. So my process is actually called the magic method.
Yay! Of course, magic.
Of course, right? And so the real idea here is I love process, right? Like in your business, whether you have a business or don't have business, but in your business, you have processes that you go through. In your day-to-day, you have processes in place for picking up your children. You know what these things look like. You know the system. You have it down, right? And so my thought around this is like, well, there has to be a process to manifestation as well. How can we make this really simple? And that is sort of what this was born out of, because I noticed for myself how easy certain things were and how hard, quote unquote, things also were. And so that's what this process was born out of. So essentially it's 4 steps. It's the very first thing is clarity. And what's really interesting about clarity when you talk about it in terms of manifestation is that so often people are not clear. They're unclear of what it is that they want. And we can say like, oh, well, I want $1 million, but okay, you're clear, but what is, I like to say, like, what's the next step on this journey? So let's say, yeah, it's $1 million. Okay, well, what's the very next step that we could manifest that would in your mind be more like turning around and finding the stamps? So let's just get really clear on that. Then we kind of pair it back to the next step. And then after that, it really becomes, and this is where we can, let me just say it and then we'll dive in a little bit to what it is. But it really becomes about energy. It really becomes about the energetic side of our universe. And so that's where we can lose people sometimes because they're like, say what now? And so even when I first heard that, I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't get it. But really what energy is just the way that you're approaching everything. It's just the literal energy that you're bringing to things. And so, for example, if we're talking about manifestation, if we're talking about money or whatever it is that we're calling in, if we can just say, if we think about energy from a vibrational standpoint, just physics, our world is made up of frequency and vibration and these things. The thing that really can like affect our vibration, our frequency, our energy is the way that we think and the way that we feel. So when I talk about energy, essentially I'm saying, how do you think about it and how do you feel about it? And it really is that simple. So when we go back to our cheeseburger example, it's like, I don't know, I feel good about it. I can just drive to the store and go pick it up. But when we talk about $1 million, I go, I don't know how that's ever going to happen for me, right? So then we can notice there's a different energy about it. There's a different energy when we say, I just want a cheeseburger or when I want $1 million. So that's what I mean by energy. So really tuning into that. And then the third step really becomes about the subconscious alignment, meaning how do I change that energy and come into alignment with it? Because there's a conscious part of us we talked about. We go, I want this thing. But then under the surface, under our subconscious, there's all these things going on, the beliefs, the thoughts, the feelings that affect that energy, of that frequency of how do we do this thing, right? And so those are the two pieces, because I find that people can get clear eventually. They can get pretty clear, but then it's like these two layers in the center are where people have trouble really coming into that alignment with that clarity vision. And then the very fourth step, the last step, once you identify what you want, once you decide what that energy is, and once you and really start embodying it, because that's really the key. And that's the key with the third step, is what allows you to embody the new energy that you need. And then the fourth step just becomes, what is the path to this? So in our cheeseburger example, we go and get in the car and we drive to the store and or the drive-through, right? Hopefully not hopefully not and. Hopefully we don't do 2 cheeseburgers. But the idea that you do have to take some kind of, I call it intuitive and creative action. There has to be some kind of step that you take to get to the thing, right? And so this is the part where we just plot out the plan. What are we going to do, and how are we going to get there? And we don't necessarily always know every single step. And again, this is a thing that trips people up. We maybe only can see the very next step. And as long as we keep taking that very next step and keep going back to our energy, keep going back to our thoughts, keep discovering the subconscious parts of ourselves that maybe aren't in alignment, and keep realigning. If we just keep doing that, then it is inevitable that what you want will become manifest.
Amazing. Amazing. I love how you've simplified the whole thing. I know it's not that simple. That's why you do this with your clients too, right? Like you go through this process, but it's so helpful to hear. I've been taking a lot of notes, and it's amazing. Like when you can boil down energy to just thinking and feeling, that really stood out to me. I talk a lot about that in the podcast, but it's so true. Like that is energy.
It really is. And you know, what's so interesting is it really is that simple. It's our brains and our thoughts and emotions that really kind of get in the way, essentially. And so that's typically what it is that I work with my clients on, but it really is that simple. And that's what I want to make sure that I impart to the people listening now and to any of my clients. It's like, I'm not the thing. I'm not the magic. You're the magic. And you have all the tools that you need. You have everything to manifest each and everything that your heart desires, all right within you. Sometimes it really just takes a little bit of that work to uncover what maybe feels like it is keeping us stuck. From making it as simple as, I'm going to get in my car and go gather the ingredients and come home and make the cheeseburger.
Yeah. So tell us of a really like a story that you of your manifestation, like something you manifested that's really dear to you.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I mean, I have so many, right? I really love the Roomba story because it was just, that one was so automatic and so sort of simple. But then really the thing that I think and I think actually you've heard me say this before too, but your audience hasn't. So let's go back to it. But it really is my business. My business is my biggest, quote unquote, I say that a lot, my biggest manifestation, because it was the thing for me that I had put up on a pedestal and was saying it was so hard. And it was the thing that, really shaped and molded me as a person as I was figuring out my own journey. And what was really beautiful about it for me is that once I kind of figured some things out for myself, it was those things that I then knew that I wanted to give back to people, that I wanted to be able to simplify it and really make it simple for people so that they didn't have to take as long as I took, that it could be easier. For me, part of my story is that several years ago now, it's been about 6 years, my husband was let go from his job. And I, at the time, wasn't making a ton of money. And it became, I chose to step into the role of financial breadwinner for the family. And it caused so much stress for me initially. And it was like, as I figured out these pieces, as I was able to put this process in place around it, and things really got easier for me, and money started being easier and flowing more effortlessly, it was like this huge and beautiful thing in my life that I then got to give away to other people and show them, hey, I beat my head against the wall for a lot of years thinking I wasn't good enough, pretty enough, smart enough, capable enough. And I made it so hard. And once I got these pieces in place and it became so much easier, that then it just became a repeatable process. So that's why I say that is my business is my biggest manifestation.
I love that, because I was going to ask you, how did you get on this journey? Like what inspired you to make this your life purpose?
And that really is it. I think, I grew up really below the poverty line. We shopped in church closets for our clothes, for our back to school clothes. And what was a blessing, but also kind of reinforced that this, poor identity in myself, was that I also got a scholarship, an all-paid scholarship to a private school. So I went to a private school. I got a, good education, but all of the kids that I was going to school with, those were the clothes I was wearing, my classmates' clothing, hand-me-down clothing. And so, we were on government assistance, and, my father was in prison and all of these things. And those were the things that, as I began to release and let go of, and I realized they didn't have to define me or define what the next chapter of my life, that I got to write it, and not based on anything from my past, that I could just be whoever I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to help people with. That was it. When I figured out that I could literally write my own life into existence and manifest my life, I was like, that's what I want to help people do.
And you are just incredible. I've seen your work. I've been a recipient of your work, and you are living that life purpose. And it's so beautiful to watch. And that's, I feel so blessed and honored to be part of your tribe in that way.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. You're gonna make me blush or cry. I cry a lot. Yeah, this is something you'll get to know about me.
Me too. It's so touching and moving. Like, our life experiences don't have to define us, is what you're saying. And from that was born this beautiful gift that you're now sharing with the world.
Yes. And I want people to understand that you can come from nothing and build something beautiful, and be something beautiful, be a light in the world. And especially, I think, especially for women, there's so many things stacked against us in the beginning. If we let we let the weight of it crush us, it can. And so it does for so many people, because things are hard sometimes. But if we can have the tools, and this is, my work is like giving people the tools that they need to be able to craft and shape and manifest their money, their business, their life, and be able to still be, it's important to me to be there for my son and still be able to be a mother and not just be working all the time. But really, again, just say, this is what I want my life to look like, and then build that thing. Just drive to the store and pick up the ingredients. And yes, it may take a little longer than a 5-minute trip. That's okay. It's part of the journey, and it's beautiful. So
I love the 4 steps because, like you talked about your son. I have a 7-year-old who is the biggest manifester ever.
Right? They're incredible.
Amazing. I mean, he follows these steps unconsciously. He has no idea he's doing it.
Totally.
Literally the other day, he was like, I want a Lego set. But that was it. And literally a Lego set showed up at the doorstep. Like, I opened the door and there's a Lego set sitting there. I was like, oh my God, like, this is insane.
That is so cool. I agree. This is the thing, is this blueprint is in us from the time we're born. And it's our life experience. It's all the things that I shared about mine, that it's sort of like, it's like the path just gets mud and dirt and rocks on it, but the roadmap is still there. It's always there. So yes, I love that example. My son is the same way. And it's such a good mirror. It's such a beautiful blessing to get to watch it, because same, like, he'll be like, one of the things that I've thought is really neat is he'll all of a sudden be obsessed with some character or some, something in pop culture. But at one point it was Power Rangers. And Power Rangers are like when I was little, right? They weren't really a thing when he was little. And all of a sudden there was a Power Rangers movie, and it like all came out. So I don't know. It's like all kids are just incredible manifestors.
And it's so nice to see that mirror, because it's like telling us, like you said, it's there in us. And what you are helping people do is let go of that mud, wash off that mud, and letting them experience that inside. I love it. Love it.
It's just a remembering. But the path and the roadmap is it's written within you.
Yeah. Yeah. So a final question I have is about, is there anything like negative manifestation? Can you manifest negatively?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's kind of what we were talking about at the beginning, is like a lot of times we do manifest stuff we don't want. And we're like, why did I get this? Or why did this keep happening? And so it's really, happening all the time. And this is why it's so important to make it conscious, bring it into our conscious awareness, because whatever for example, if we go through the steps, you can kind of see it in this way. It's like, we're clear on what we don't want, right? And then our energy, our thought, and our feeling is really centered around that a lot of the time, of worrying. Anything with really a strong emotion is drawing something toward you. The strong emotion is literally the magnet. When people talk about manifestation and being like a magnet drawing things toward you, it really is. It really, really is. But you're doing that based on your thoughts and feelings, based on that vibration and emotion and energy. So yes, when we're thinking negatively, worrying, anxious, frustrated, any of those emotions are very powerful manifestors, very powerful magnets. So they're also drawing those things to you, because this is what it means to be in alignment, is that you're in alignment with stuff you don't want.
Yes.
And so then it becomes, about how do we just get off of that? How do we get off of this autopilot where we're constantly worrying? And so, then you go the other direction and start going, what can I identify that I do want, and start really turning my attention toward that.
Yeah. And the 4 steps are amazing. They're really great map, right? It gives you a compass of how you can manifest. I love it. Love it. So Sarah, tell us, like, do you have any programs? How can people work with you? How can people
Yes.
find you?
Well, thank you. So Instagram is my hangout spot. That's where I love to connect with people. I'm there just about every day, at least Monday through Friday, especially like the stories. I feel like I can really connect to people through that. So at Sara Drury is Instagram. And then I actually do have a program called Becoming Magical. And it really breaks down this process fully, as well as giving the tools, each and every tool that kind of goes along with that. And so that I can send you the link for that as well.
I'm going to add it to the show notes. Yeah.
Sure. And then I also have a free, totally free, because the program is paid, but I have a totally free workbook that I can also gift your audience that I'll send you the link as well. That kind of goes through each of these steps and breaks it down and allows you to work through some of the beliefs and things that maybe are in the way a little bit. So I would love to gift that to your audience, and they can just get started with that, because it really breaks down everything that we talked about.
Amazing. Yes, I'll add all of that to the show notes. It'd be good to have people find you there. And when is your program open?
So the way that I do my program is that there is a kind of like a self-paced option, so you can join anytime.
Nice.
Yeah. And then twice a year we run through all of the steps, which is essentially it's 12 weeks long. We run through each and every step together live with coaching and Q&A and all of that. So that only opens twice a year. And the next one will be in August, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so, but the reason that I keep it open all year round for people to jump in is because sometimes we don't want to wait. We want to go ahead and get started. And so I've set it up in a way that you can really start peeling back the layers right away with a lot of the tools that you need to be able to uncover the blocks and then release them.
Yes, I know you do a lot of the subconscious reprogramming with hypnosis and all that. So awesome. This is amazing. Yes. I will definitely link that up and people can find you. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. This is such an honor to connect with you and to share with your people.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, Sarah. So grateful for you.
Thank you so much for listening. I have a request for you. If you found value, chances are that your friends and family will too. So if you can leave a positive review on iTunes, it will help reach so many more people. And if you have any topics or questions you would like me to feature, please send them to support@padmaali.com. And lastly, please share your takeaways and breakthroughs with me on Instagram @Padma Ali. Thank you so much for tuning in.